Welcome to another marketing strategy session. I have David Allison on with me from Value Graphics, and we're going to talk about consumer behavior. So we're going to dive into what the consumers want and what makes them do the things that they do. David, thanks for coming on the show with me.
Thanks for having me over. Nice place you got here.
Why? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we talked about a little bit of stuff, so I'm gonna give y'all a little bit of behind the scenes. We start geeking out. He showed me some new technology that I'm about to dive into. He's about to show you some slides and give you some data, but you know, we kind of went on a side note, and I was like, "Ooh, that's cool. I need to learn how to do that." But anyway, we'll get back to the show. So let's talk about consumer behavior. That is something that I think a lot of businesses don't consider as much as they probably should. So how did you get into the whole consumer behavior realm, you know, to start looking at that and leveraging that to help businesses, you know, grow?
Well, Jeff, it's been a long and twisty, windy road that's led me here. For years and years, I had my own marketing company. So even before that, I worked in ad agencies back when we used to have things called advertising agencies. I don't think anybody, even the big boys, they don't call themselves that anymore because advertising is like this much of the revenue stream compared to all the other stuff. But yeah, back in the day, I worked in an ad agency, and then I started my own version of that, and eventually ended up doing this instead. And what happened was that last company that I owned, we had a specialty. What we did was help high-end real estate developers with the marketing for their big giant condos and resort communities. And we did this all over the world. We were really good at this. Mm-hmm. And it always started the same way. We'd get a description of a target audience, and it was the demographics, you know, Bob and Sally and their retiring baby boomers and blah, 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 all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. We go spend $1 million and we try and get Bob and Sally to come and buy the condos or the resort community stuff or whatever we were doing. And then 2 years later, this is the kind of cool thing about working in the real estate development sector. We'd be able to go to the building that we had just sold out and see who's there and go meet Bob and Sally. And you know what? Bob and Sally never showed up. All these other people showed up.
Really?
They didn't match the demographics. Like there was not a room full of people who were 50 to 60-year-old white men and women who had been married with 2.3 children. There was all kinds of people who were coming to buy these things. So we were successful though. So it was like, cool, that worked, but I don't know who all these other people, what's that gay couple doing over there? And why is there a black guy here? We didn't advertise to any black guys. And so all these people who did not match the demographics that we had just spent $1 million of our clients' money on, mm-hmm. They all came instead. Huh. So when I sold my firm, I thought, I'm going to figure that out. And so it really comes down to what are we here to do? How do consumers make a decision? How does anybody decide to do something? Uh-huh. This is a really great moment for me to just show you a couple of quick slides here and just explain how we ended up where we are today. So
hold on. Side note, hold on.
Yeah.
Did y'all see that? Did y'all see how you just switched that in the middle? That is so cool. Okay, so I'm gonna stop geeking out. Go ahead.
So it all starts with this really, I think, quite lovely realization that every organization on earth is here to do exactly the same thing. We all get up every morning, we go to work trying to just convince some people to do something we'd like them to do. And whether you're the Roman Catholic Church or you're a guy who sells hot dogs out of a vending stand on a street with a busy bar, doesn't matter. We're all just trying to get some people to do what we want them to do, which sort of begs the question, how do people decide to do things? How do people make that decision? So this is where my research began, was diving into these different fields of human behavior science and looking at neuroscience. And neuroscientists talk about the prefrontal cortex of your brain. And this is the part of your brain that makes decisions on your behalf. And it only uses one set of filters to decide whether you're going to run towards something or run away from something. And that's what you care about, what your values are. So if your family is a really important value in your life and something comes along that's really good for your family, you're going to be like, oh my God, I got to go get some more of that. And you'll run away from anything that might be bad for your family.
Okay.
Psychologists, they talk about confirmation bias as a thing we have to avoid when we're doing studies and research, because people on a survey can't help but say yes to the things they care about. and that they already believe to be true. So there's psychologists saying it's all about the values. Our values determine everything we do.
Okay.
And sociologists, that's where my research is, this massive data set we've built. Sociologists study masses of people, big groups, and say, why did this group of people do this thing and this other group of people do this other thing? It's because these people cared about this stuff. They valued these things. And so they went and did that. And these people valued these things. So they went and did this other thing instead. But here's the problem for marketers. We've never had a tool. We've never had a database large enough that's allowed us to look at a target audience and say, what do those people care about? So we've had to use demographics and psychographics and try and figure it out. We're like, well, wealthy baby boomers who are selling their single family home, if we want to try and get them to come and buy these condos, they probably like a lot of marble and fancy finishes, and they're probably all about status. And so you take a guess and you start doing stuff based on demographic stereotypes, because all men are the same, right? And all women like the same things, and all baby boomers are obviously identical to each other. Well, it turns out now we've done 600,000 surveys around the world, more than 500,000, 600,000 surveys.
Wow.
And we found there's only 56 core human values that people chase. So there's only 56 things important enough to humans that they use those filters to make decisions, neurologically, psychologically, sociologically, 56 component parts. So if we can just figure out which ones a target audience has in common, then we know exactly what to say to them to get them to do the things we'd like them to do, right? We don't have to guess anymore. We don't have to go, baby boomers like fancy cars, so let's talk to them about, maybe a whole bunch of them don't. And you know what? Millennials like fancy cars too. And so do, like these guesses we were making make no sense when you actually look at them in terms of demographics. So now with the value graphics database that we've built, we can layer up our audience insights. It's like a three-legged stool. Demographics are still a great way to describe a target audience. I always end up reaching for and talking about my reading glasses, because demographically, we are not selling reading glasses to 18-year-old girls. We know this. It's going to be guys like you and me who need reading glasses to be able to, see where we're going and what's going on in our world.
I don't know if you get the right pop star to start wearing them, then those little 18-year-old girls will start wanting to put them on.
That's true. Perhaps. I mean, we could turn this into like maybe Justin Bieber will start going on stage like this. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's a thought. It's a thought. So psychographics for the people who are going to buy these reading glasses, it might be good to know that how many pairs do they own, and how often do they buy a new one, and how much do they spend on each one. So that's not demographics. It's a record of how they've behaved so far.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. That's all we've worked with so far. We have a description and a record of past behavior. And then we guess about how to actually activate that group and what they care about and how to get them to do the things we want them to do. And now we don't have to guess anymore because we have the value graphics database. So I pulled a little data chart to show you, and then I'll shut up and we'll talk and have our actual conversation. So this is what value graphics look like for people who shop online versus one small sector of people who shop online that we call the treasure hunters. So we had a client who came to us and said, we want to understand our shoppers. And we found that there was this one particular group who really liked what they were selling online. And we called them the treasure hunters. And here's what makes them different. Of those 56 values, look at the red arrows. The treasure hunters are far more interested in possessions and experiences. So anything that retailer can do to make the experience of shopping wonderful, to make the consumer journey all about, wow, this is cool. I've never done anything like this before. I love this. And to make what they end up buying, the packaging becomes really important because they want it to feel like a really treasured possession. Okay. Move down and look at some of the other ones. Social standing. They want to brag to their friends about how they found this thing and went through this experience and got this package. And self-expression, they see this as a way to tell the world who they are. It's about badging. It's very sort of tribal in some ways. And then interestingly, they also see this as a way to be creative. They're shopping online they're looking for a creative outlet. So if you just know that about your target audience, and you still know demographics, you're talking to, let's say, 30 to 50-year-old women who come from a household with $100,000 a year and they live in Atlanta where you are. Cool, yeah. That's great. But what do they have in common? Well, we know for this brand online, what they have in common is their love of experiences, possessions, social standing, self-expression, and creativity. Now you know what to say to them to get them to do what you want them to do, which you didn't know until you got their values down. So that's what we're doing. That's what Valuegraphics are all about.
That's interesting. So would that be why people do the shopping network? Like, for instance, there's some people that will be on the shopping network late at night. This is way back predating internet, but they will be late at night in the middle of the morning buying stuff. And it would be just stuff, but they would be the experience of being able to watch it on TV and make that phone call and make that purchase and so forth. Is that because they're the treasure hunters? They're like, I just love the experience of watching it on TV, buying something probably nobody else has ever even heard of, and I have it.
And then forgetting that you even bought it, because that's not the point, right?
Yeah.
The point is the experience. So yeah, some of those treasure hunters would have shown up in there for sure. But here's the thing. We don't do anything as humans, anything. We don't do none of our behaviors, decisions, emotions, unless it comes from what we value. So those people sitting up late at night on the couch watching the Home Shopping Network and buying, what was Joan Rivers' ridiculous jewelry, whatever it was that they were buying, there was some set of values that was getting them to do that, where they were like, this feels like I enjoy this. And when we say I enjoy this, this is what I want to do, what we're really saying is this matches my values. This is in alignment with my values. So another one that may have come into play for those people is community, because they kind of felt like they're part of a club. They're part of a gang of folks. And I got to call in and talk to the operator and say, oh, what a lovely brooch that is. I can't wait to, or whatever they were talking about. I love that blender. Like I can't wait to make drinks. And so there was some kind of connection and community going on there. That was probably one of the values that was being activated as well. It's really fascinating when you boil it down and realize that nothing ever happens, ever, unless it's about someone's values. So that shirt you're wearing right now, two stories. First one, somebody sat down and designed that shirt and said, I think I'm going to make a shirt like this and like that and whatever. And they were acting based on their values. And what they've done is they've got you to go into a store and go, which shirt matches the way I feel about the world? And I like this one. And for whatever set of reasons, you don't even know you're necessarily doing it. Like, it's subconscious most of the time. Something about that shirt matched your value set. And you said, this is the shirt for me. And so you made that decision.
That makes sense. Because I know I've bought things based on, I guess, underlying values that I didn't even pay attention to. Like, for instance, my wife used to get mad at me because I would buy things just purely on the packaging. And it's because I'm in marketing. I'll be like, I like the way the design of that. That is nice. And then I'll buy it and I'll just set it on the shelf. Because I wasn't interested in what was inside the packaging, but I enjoyed the way they packaged it and the creativity that they put toward that. And I'm like, wow, that's
a piece of art you just bought. You just bought a sculpture. That's what you're buying, right? And so for you, your value that you place on creativity was coming to the forefront. You were not buying a box of tea. You were buying creativity. That's what you were buying.
Exactly. And so I'm not crazy.
No, you're not crazy. None of us are crazy. None of us are crazy.
So I think one company that does that well is Amazon. Their online experience really taps into, I guess you say, your value system and their recommendation engine. So it really taps into that, because I know for myself and as well as others that I know, you buy a lot of stuff on Amazon just because. And it comes in and you're just like, oh, okay. You even, like you say, you forget you even purchased it. The package is on the doorstep and you're like, oh. So, but I enjoy, and it's funny because I do this almost every day, which is sad, but I'll go by the door and look out the window to see if there's anything on the porch.
It's
Just
Amazon
because
Christmas.
I know that we just buy stuff and it just shows up.
Yeah,
And
Amazon. We call it Amazon Christmas over here. It's like every single day is Amazon Christmas. Like, oh, hey, I forgot about that, but here it is. Yeah,
exactly. And so they basically had tapped into that value graphic. So it's not like I'm buying it because I really wanted that product. I enjoy the purchase and I enjoy the, like you say, the Amazon Christmas, the surprise of seeing something on the doorstep.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Amazon's doing a lot of stuff right, obviously, right? I mean, they're making a killing. They're doing a great job. Their profits are going through the roof. In fact, so much so that they've got protesters who are saying you're making too much money and they should stop that.
Yeah.
So that's cool. But here's the thing with Amazon and every other online operation that relies on data about your past purchase behavior. That's your past.
Okay.
So here's an example. I have a little cottage up the coast. And I went on Amazon about 2 months ago and I said, I need a fan because we don't have any air conditioning up there. So I'm going to need to get one of those old fashioned fans. So I searched around for a little bit and I bought a fan. In fact, I bought two and they showed up and they're up there now, which is good because it's a heat wave here in Canada where I'm at. So thank God I got those fans. There's none in the stores, but I got my fans in advance thanks to Amazon. But here's what happened next. For the next 2 months, every time I went on Amazon, guess what I saw? Ads for fans. I already bought the fan. I already got it. I don't need another one. But their algorithms are not smart. Their algorithms are like, okay, so this guy buys fans. Let's show him some ads for fans. Instead, if someone like Amazon or Shopify or Etsy or one of these online retailers, if they took their demographics about me and the psychographics that I bought a fan, and then they layered on top of that the value graphics and said, well, why did that guy buy a fan? He bought that fan because personal growth, let's say, and environmentalism is really important to him. Well, what else would a guy who just bought a fan, who's also into environmentalism and wants to grow as a person, well, he might also enjoy having a hammock, because a hammock is going to let him be outdoors and it's going to be about taking some time to relax while he's up at the cottage. So they show me ads for hammocks, which I don't have one of. And now that we've talked about this, I think I'm going to go buy myself a hammock for this weekend up at the cottage.
Don't worry. They'll be listening and they probably will have it in your next login.
So demographics and psychographics only take us so far. They identify who a group of people are, what they've done so far, but you're left with that, okay, but I want them to do something different now. I want them to buy a different thing or buy more of something or change brands or, I talk about these reading glasses. It's cool to know who's buying them and how many pairs they have. But let's say I want to get somebody to get laser surgery so they don't need reading glasses anymore.
Okay.
You're going to guess, unless you know that person's all about, well, let's say family. And now you say to them, listen, those reading glasses, they're preventing you from spending the quality time with your kids and your grandkids that you wish you could, because you're always searching for your glasses to try and read stuff to them. And just get the laser surgery, buddy. You're going to be a better father, a better grandfather. You're going to be a better family man with laser. Is a bad example, but you see where I'm going with this.
Or if he's that old guy that wants to be young again, and you're like, oh, well, you don't want to wear the reading glasses. Let's do the laser surgery so you can dye your hair and look young again.
Yeah, so that would be about, what would that be about? That would probably, I'm going to say that would be about self-expression. This is like somebody who does not want to project as an old guy. So instead wants to be a young guy. So if you talk to them about laser surgery that way, they'll be like, oh yeah, you're right. Absolutely. I'm ready to do that. Let's go.
Yep. And get my 2-door coupe with the drop top and ride on into the sunset.
Absolutely. Yeah. All those stereotypes, right? But I mean, that's what it comes down to. What we value determines everything we do. So until you know what someone values, you're guessing.
So how do you figure that out? I mean, how do you say, okay, out of these 59 things, we're going to be able to plot and graph this person's projected or forecasted behavior or value? You know, how do you do that? Because when you're dealing with people, I guess you would say you haven't seen, you know what their past behaviors are. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness for automation and social listening. You can kind of see what they're interested in, yeah. But how do you tie it all together and say, okay, now I can go ahead and plot this. This person probably would be interested in this based on what we know.
Well, there's three answers to that question. The first one's expensive. The second one is almost free. And the third one is free. So very quickly, let's go through those. Expensive. You hire my company. We do a custom value graphics profile for you. We extrapolate data from our 600,000 surveys around the world. This database is more accurate than you need for a PhD from Harvard. And we can pinpoint exactly what your target audience cares about. So you know what to say. You know what to say to them. But you know what? It's not cheap and it's not for everybody. So we'll go down the scale a bit to the almost free version. This involves buying a copy of my book. So for $16.99 or whatever it is, I can't remember. You're going to be able to get a quiz in there. There's a 10-question quiz in that book. And it is based on all of these surveys we've done all over the world. And if you use that quiz and score it, let's say you get 100 of your customers to fill it out, you tabulate the results. It's all the information you need in the book. And it'll tell you which of the 10 biggest archetypes in our research is most applicable to your target audience. Now, it's not super accurate. I say it's like playing the piano with your fists. You know, you're playing the right instrument. It's not really pretty, but at least you're playing the value graphic piano and not that broken old demographic cello that's over in the corner there with no strings anymore. That doesn't work, right? So you're playing the value graphic piano. So that's the second way to do it. And then the free way, forget the book. There's 3 questions that we should just start all asking every time we interact with our customers, whether it's face-to-face or you send out a little email survey or you train your salespeople to just kind of bring this stuff up in conversation. 3 magic questions. And if you listen to the answers to these questions enough times from enough people, you'll start to see patterns. You'll start to see some signals in the noise, they say, right?
Okay.
Question number 1. Why do you go to work every day? So you start asking that. Now, you don't have to use those exact words, but if you ask enough of your customers, let's say you work in a shoe store and you ask that to people, you throw it in the conversation. Hey, wow, you're getting some new shoes. What do you do for work? Why do you go to work anyway? What's work all about for you? You're trying to get to the why. So people will answer that with, I'm doing it to pay for my kids' education. Or, you know, I have this mission I have to accomplish because I believe the work I'm doing is about this and that and the other thing. Or you'll start to see patterns around the why answer for that question. Question number 2, you just won the lottery. Why would you give away half of it? People will go, wow, because the environment is the biggest problem in our lifetime. And so I would support the environment. Well, why would you support the environment? Because I want my children to have a happy planet to live on when it's their turn to be like, so you just get down to the why. And then the third question, the third magic question, this one's my favorite. You get to write a letter to yourself 10 years ago. So what would you say to your 10-year ago self, knowing what you know now, and why? Why would you say those things to your 10-year ago self?
Okay.
Now, if you ask those 3 questions in whatever way you can, use, again, you know, we're always doing customer surveys, aren't we? We're always sending out information. And what do we ask on those surveys? How old are you? Are you a male or female? Are you rich or poor? Are you young? I mean, what do you do with that stuff? If you find out that your whole target audience is female, do you make everything pink all of a sudden? Of course not. It's absurd, right?
Yeah.
But we feel like we have to collect demographic information. So we collect all that stuff. And then we collect psychographic information, like, what do you like about my product? How much do you like my product? Do you like my product enough that you're going to buy my product again? Tell me about my product. That's what we ask, the second batch of questions. But we never say, tell me about you.
Yeah.
Why do you do things? What's important in your life? So ask those 3 questions on your customer surveys, and you'll start to see patterns. And once you've got those patterns, you'd understand why people are living the lives they lead. Well, then you just need to connect the dots between whatever it is you're doing, your product, service, brand, connect the dots to the things they want to hear. It's kind of obvious after that point, right? Connect the dots to what they want to hear. And guess what? They'll do the things you'd like them to do.
Good point. Now, how much does, like, I've been hearing lately a lot about dopamine and, you know, that controlling people's actions. You know, how much does dopamine, and I'm sure you probably know a lot of other, I wouldn't say terms, but a lot of other things that are in your brain or brain activities that affects people's consumer behavior?
Here's the best way to think about this. When you go and see a shrink, I shouldn't call them that. That's an honorable profession. I'm going to call them a psychologist or a counselor. When you go and see a psychologist or a counselor, you lie on their sofa. What they're trying to do is understand your values, what you care about deeply, and then understand the world you live in, the day-to-day life that you lead. And then they try and work with you with strategies to get those things back in alignment. Because if you're living a life that's in alignment with what you care about and what your values are, you're a happy person. If you're out of alignment, you're an unhappy person. That's the basic principle of what a psychologist does. What we're trying to do with value graphics is understand what's the target audience that we're talking to. What's it going to take for our product, our service, our brand to be in alignment with what they care about, so that they're happy and they go, that's going to make me feel great. If I have that, if I buy that, choose this, go that way, that's going to give me what I'm looking for, that alignment with my values. So it's a basic human impulse. It's centered in our brain. Absolutely. It sends all kinds of warm, happy signals to our whole body when we find things that are in alignment with what we care about the most. It makes us, that's what we strive. That's what it is to be human, you know? That's what we're doing every day. All of us, we're waking up and trying to find stuff that's important to us.
Yeah. And the best question to ask is why. So David said, and I'm paraphrasing, that we all in business need to hire a 3-year-old as our chief information gatherer because they are kings and queens of why, but why?
I think that's a great, I love that. No one's ever said that before. What comes up often though is Simon Sinek and his whole thing about why.
Yes.
You get to the why. And I couldn't agree more. And what we've done is sort of build on top of what Simon Sinek talked about and said, cool, we agree. The why is where it's at. It's all about the why. So let's get some data about what that why is. So we're not guessing. We're not just sitting around with donuts in our boardroom going, what do you think our customers care about? I don't know, pass the chocolate donut. That's, we can actually know with statistical accuracy what our people care about.
And you know, in those board meetings, the funny thing is, as you're eating the donuts and drinking the Starbucks coffee, then you have the CEO gonna, you know, he or she is gonna say, well, I'm gonna tell you what they're thinking. I'm gonna tell you what they want. And this is where it's going.
You got it. And you know what? This is the hidden secret benefit. It's like I paid you to ask these questions because this is like the thing I hear from all of our clients most. Yes, we got the information we needed. Yes, it helped us do the things we need to do. But you know what else? It stopped the fighting.
Yeah.
Because we all knew where we were headed. We had a North Star to chase. And so our CEO couldn't come in and say, I think it's about, because we could just say, well, listen, sure, we're happy to listen to your point of view. Or we could listen to these 600,000 surveys from around the world that are more accurate than Harvard PhD. Which one would you like us to use?
Definitely. So that really helps though. I mean, I didn't know that it was that extensive. It's amazing because, you know, my level was always to the psychographic. You know, when I consult clients, it was always, okay, let's get out of the demographics and let's get to the psychographics, because demographics are misleading, and you're really just pretty much just guessing. Yeah. Okay, what are their needs? Let's look at the needs. But you took it to a whole nother level and above by saying, okay, they have needs, but what are the values that drive those needs?
Bingo.
So
and to stack this, like, sometimes people listen to me rant on about this stuff and they're like, well, David said the demographics don't matter anymore. No, they absolutely do. You need all three. It's like a three-legged stool. You got to have all three for it to be stable.
Yeah. Wow. So this takes finding your audience to a whole nother level.
It sure does. But isn't that the name of the game? We're all here trying to get people to do something we want them to do. And if you don't, the more you know about the people you're trying to engage with, two things happen. The more successful you're going to be, but the happier these people will be. And so we're going to be able to create a world based on products and services and brands that are all about what people actually value, instead of ridiculous old demographic stereotypes from days gone by, right?
Yeah.
Right now, we make the world based on what we think aging baby boomers really like, which is just, it's nonsense. So we keep making bad stuff. That's why there's so much bad stuff out there in the world, because we're using the wrong inputs. And of course, we get garbage outputs.
Yes.
Let's use the right inputs. Values are what we care about. It's what brings us together. I'm going to end on a really serious note here. When every single conversation in the world begins with a demographic description of who we're doing something for, who we're trying to influence, that means everything we do begins with this analysis of rich versus poor, young versus old, male versus female, black versus white. No wonder we're fighting with each other. No wonder we live in such a divided, divisive world.
Yeah.
If instead we looked at each other all over the world for business and for everything and said, what do we have in common? What do we all agree is important?
Yeah.
The world would edge slowly towards a less divided state of reality. I think it's going to be it's definitely a better way for companies to make more money and be more successful. But at the same time, I think it's really good for the world to stop using those ridiculous demographic stereotypes from days gone by.
I agree because when you strip it down, we value the same things in most cases. We all want the same things in life and in lifestyles, and a lot of it is common, but we don't get to that point because we're so busy looking at the exterior and just the surface level and saying, well, you couldn't want that. You're in Canada.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're in America. We're in Atlanta. You couldn't want cool weather. I can understand that. You can't want fans. That's crazy.
I'm all about statistics and data. So let me give you one little data point to remember. Mm-hmm. This is the thing. This is the story you'll tell at a dinner party. This is the data point that you and hopefully your listeners will remember. So we spent the last 30 years running around trying to figure out what millennials want.
I remember that.
Millennials are like a unicorn in the enchanted forest. We'd never seen anything like a millennial. We had to change everything for the millennials. They had different products, services, human engagement at work, culture, reward, everything had to change for millennials. So we've done 600,000 surveys around the world, and the same number of those surveys as a percentage are millennials as a percentage of millennials in the real world. So we can look at what the millennials in our database, what they have in common. How similar are the millennials to each other? So are they even a targetable group? Okay. So millennials, 600,000 surveys, more accurate than you need for a Harvard PhD. Millennials agree with each other 15% of the time, which means 85% of the time they disagree on everything.
Wow.
So every dollar we spent chasing millennials was 85% wasted.
Wow.
How many trillions did we waste? And now we're doing it to Gen Z. We're running around going, well, Gen Z likes this and Gen Z likes that. It's all, can I swear? Can I swear on your show?
Yeah, we're all grown.
Bullshit. It's all bullshit. saying that Gen Z likes this and Gen Z likes that, it's bullshit. They
Yeah.
don't. They all like some things in common with each other, but those same things they like, a bunch of boomers like that too. And so do a bunch of men and a bunch of women and people from Afghanistan and people who have a college degree and people who don't have a college degree. Those 56 values cut across all those demographic categories.
That makes sense. They all eat. They all like to sleep.
Some of us love our families and some of us are more focused on our careers. It's just, we're humans.
That is a great point. And some of the common things have been since the beginning of time. So it doesn't really change, you know, some of the values. And, you know, we just need to tap into that and see how can we address that particular aspect.
You got it.
What was the, I forgot, it was one philosopher that was talking about the core needs, the core human needs. There's only like a handful of needs. I know it was food, shelter.
Oh, Maslow's needs hierarchy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so Maslow's needs hierarchy starts at the bottom with like food, clothing, shelter, and moves up to like, you know, family, friendship, all this kind of stuff. And at the very top is self-actualization, which is fancy words for understanding who you are and what you really care about.
Yeah.
And so we take off from there and say, let's answer that with data. Instead of sitting around in the boardroom with the donuts with the marketing team and going, what do you think our customers care about? Let's have data that tells us what our customers care about.
Yeah. That is completely on point. Let everyone know how they can get in touch with you. How can they get the book? They've got the 3 questions that they can ask. So they can at least start with that, but
absolutely,
let them know how they can take this further if they need to get past the 3 questions.
You bet. So the current book, new book will be out in January, but the book that's available now is on Amazon. It's called We Are All the Same Age Now.
Okay.
So, or you can just Google my name, David Allison, and you'll find it there.
Okay.
And in that book is that quiz with the 10 questions you can ask. And now here's the thing with the book. This book is only good for Canada and the United States. If you've got listeners in other parts of the world, they have to wait for January. That's when the global data book comes out, right?
Okay.
You can also find me on valuegraphics.com. And one of the ways we're trying to incrementally change the world is we keep pushing out free data reports. So if you come and sign up on valuegraphics.com, we're always pushing out reports on online shopping, or what do people want after the pandemic is over, or how do you get people to go to hotels, or we're just like trying to give away as much of this data as we can. And of course, LinkedIn is, I mean, I'm on all the social channels, but LinkedIn is really where I hang out, and the rest of them are kind of like, I have to be there because everybody else is. So
yeah. LinkedIn is the business network.
That's where I live. I live on LinkedIn, but valuegraphics.com. It's not a sales pitch. There's all kinds of free stuff there, and we continue to push more. So we just want people around everywhere to sit around and say, what are the demographics, psychographics, and value graphics of our target audience, and figure out the answer to that third one, the value graphics, the free way with those 3 questions. Use the quiz in the book, which will be good for the rest of time. Once you got the book, you can use that forever and ever. Or if you really want to get super precise about it, you can give us a call and we'll be happy to talk about it, whether or not we can do some work together. That would be great.
Cool. Well, I appreciate all the insight and the information. And I learned a lot. And I'm going to definitely make some phone calls to some people that have been trying to sell me. And I'm like, you don't even know my values. You don't know me. And so forth. So thanks so much, David, for coming on and sharing. I mean, I learned a lot. This has taken, you know, even me as a consultant, this has taken me to another level of how I need to think about addressing, you know, not only my audience, but also my clients, addressing their audiences when it comes to, you know, providing a better product or service to the marketplace. So
thanks for having me over.
Thanks. All right, everyone. This has been another marketing strategy session. I hope you got as much as I got out of it. It is definitely taking this to a whole nother level. And I'll see you again on the next marketing strategy session.